and hopefully we'll score some extra minutes as we go.
Okay, thanks, Griff. Okay, so the proposal that I'm going to present is called Ostrom's $1 million baby. And I am championing this proposal because I think that following Ostrom's principles have been a great guidance for us until now, and I think it would be really cool if we can continue following that for the design of the common subgrade. This was a proposal that was made between Levy, Mitch, and myself, and actually every time I look at it, I like it. So that's why I think it would be a really good proposal. First, we will have 40 weeks of freeze and 40 weeks of thaw. So that will mean that we will have equal periods for these um, um, phases of the vesting. And the opening price is really cool because we actually start with a low opening price of 0.63. But the cool thing about this is that as we are going to have an initial buy, we allow that initial buy to acquire a lot of TEC for our community at a low price. And after the initial buy, the price raises to 1.1. That is almost the same price that we had for the hatch. So it's like, okay, we are allowing this 1.1 price for the rest of the people, but we bought it at 0.63. And this gives us really cool numbers of like $1 million in the common pool. That's why it's Ostrom $1 million baby, and 500K of reserve. And yeah, like a common distribute of 78% um, would allow us to have yeah $1 million in the common pool, and $1 million in the common pool, and 500K of reserve. So yeah, I like this proposal, and also um, I think that this proposal also allows a stability and change. I don't really, and well, the Tau voting, I left it almost default. And in conviction voting, I am aiming to have like a minimum conviction of 3% and a conviction that grows fast, so that yeah, it's easier to pass proposals fast. Um, and small proposals because we have a low spending limit, so that yeah, it's not we are not passing a lot of really big proposals, but rather we are passing a lot of small proposals. I think that that would be a cool way to work. And here, like, this is one thing that I like of this proposal, and is that the price of the token doesn't go that much high. So I think that that would be cool, because we can see that in other proposals with a reserve of 100 million, the price of the token goes to like 1,000. And I think yeah, that volatility could affect some things that we're going to do with that token, like the reward system. And yeah, that I like that this proposal more or less flattens the price of the token with the bonding curve.
1 minute left.
No, I think that's it. Like, yeah, we expect to be able to pass proposals between 20 to 50K that work like milestones to have accountability towards proposers. And there's other thing that of this proposal that I didn't explain, and is that this proposal starts with an entry tribute of 8% and an exit tribute of 2%, but it proposes that each 2 months we change these values until we have 2% of entry tribute and 8% of exit tribute in 6 months. So yeah, let me see. Two, yeah, I don't know where is that in the post, but that's written here, and is that yeah we really want to have yeah that percentage change gradually um, from 8 to 8 in 6 months. The entry and exit tributes.
Perfect. Okay, right on time. So then, question first off, very nicely done. Let's give Wonka a round of applause. Takes a lot of courage to present these params. Yeah, and then it's Q&A. Paul, did you have a question?
No, I was just cheering.
Oh, I thought. Oh, cheering. Oh, nice. Does anyone have any questions for Wonka's proposal?
Maybe one question is why could you maybe repeat the reasoning around having a 40-week trees?
Yeah, um, it's because it's the time to make a baby, and that's why it's also $1 million baby. Just as,
I
uh,
mean,
as
could we argue that the baby's already here and like let's not keep the baby tucked away for too long.
yeah, yeah, that's a good feedback. Yeah, that's a good feedback.
Yeah, but yeah, just a general stuff. Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Kojak, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, nice. So I guess, do you think that a 63-cent opening price will have challenges from the community? Like, just like, will they be informed enough? I mean, I know, and what does the actual opening price after the initial buy? Does it turn into $1.01 or $1.10?
$1.01.
$1.01. So,
Yeah,
do you think that that's enough profit for the hatchers?
yeah, and I think that actually the hatchers will benefit from the bonding curve, and I mean even hatchers will want to continue buying because as the price is the same as the hatch, like maybe people can say like, okay, I want to buy more, maybe hatchers, and like yeah, here you can see the price after the initial buy goes going to $1.01, and maybe yeah, like we can open it for the same hatchers or yeah for other people, but this one will start with the entry tribute of 8%. But what would be cool of this is that the initial buy would actually acquire a lot of TEC.
That's true. With the conviction voting, can why have such a short 3-day span? Like this to me, this means that basically a proposal will always pass within 2 to 3 weeks. Otherwise, it just won't pass at all, which isn't bad. But the 8 hour thing is what concerns me a little bit. Like 8 hours, like that we could actually, if a lot of people agree, like someone could go to sleep and there's no proposal, and then they wake up and a proposal passed.
Yeah, but also like it's really really hard because it would need like 700k tokens, and yeah, I think it would make it really really hard to pass, and it would be like um, yeah, I think that would make it really hard to pass. Even in one day, things are really hard to pass. In 3 days, like this becomes more reachable, and then in 7 days, like yeah, it's feasible. But also, like in 6 months, it doesn't become like too easier or way too easier than it is to pass a proposal than in 7 days or 2 weeks.
Well, there's only 10 seconds left, so I think we'll just leave it at that. Thank you, Wonka. That is a fantastic proposal. Actually, you know, I think I could go next
Yeah.
and jump in on mine, and then Chewy, you're up after me, if that's cool. Okay, so this proposal is called Goldilocks $1 bet for $1 million to advance token engineering, right? And the goal here. Oh, we need to start the timer. Sorry. The goal here is to raise a lot of funding for the common pool. So how can we get about $1 million in the common pool while still having an opening price of $1, not dropping below the opening price? This is a merge of a lot of proposals. Wonka, Angela, Lauren, Mitch, Nate, Sepp, and Tam all influenced this configuration. It kind of expects that we have a strong community that can coordinate to pass votes, both in Tau voting and conviction voting, and that, sorry, I have some notes over here, and that the biggest things to note are that we get $1 million in the common pool, the strategy around entry and exit tributes, which is similar to Wonka's, the 5-day DAO voting period, and the 20% reserve ratio. Actually, this proposal is very similar to Wonka's. The big difference is probably in this module, where I have an opening price of $1, token freeze of 6 months, and a thought of a year. I think it's good to have a 6-month freeze. We do need some time for like getting proposals to pass so that people can see the value of some proposals actually going through. But we probably could get away with just 6 months and with a thought of a year. The common pool ends up with 925, but then we add an extra 55K from the initial buy. And because we have a 22% entry tribute starting out, we'll end up with a really nice, a lot of people buying tokens early. Will end up contributing to the common pool enough to get us to the $1 million mark. But my goal was to get the reserve ratio to about 20%, and also nail the meme with a 69% commons tribute. This is a Goldilocks proposal, so simple numbers are the goal. So I'm a little off on the reserve ratio, but I took it as acceptable. The big strategy here is that we start off with a really high entry tribute because in the end, the hatchers are paying a 69% tribute. So an entry tribute of 22% isn't so bad for the next round. It's like we had a seed round, and this would be like the Series A round. It has a higher evaluation, but they still have to contribute to the advancing token engineering. And then every month we lower the entry tribute 4%, raise the exit tribute 2%, until we get to the end goal, which is a 12% exit tribute and a 2% entry tribute. So it has to calculate through all these steps. So I probably shouldn't have messed with it. And then a 2% entry tribute. But I'll leave that there. What's really cool with this is the reserve ratio of 20 isn't so bad, so that if when we raise when we actually get a lot of people buying new tokens, there's a little bit of competition for hatchers' governance power. In a lot of these proposals with a lower reserve ratio, the governance, not in Wonka's, but in others that have a really low reserve ratio, it's really hard to get as many tokens as the hatchers have without needing the hatchers to sell. So there isn't much challenge to the governance power of the hatchers. And this proposal tries to strike a nice balance between the price being able to go up, but like a decent amount, but still people being able to get tokens. So the opening price out the gate is $1.38. For DAO voting, I have a support required of 85% and a minimum quorum of 10%. This is because there's delegation in DAO voting. So with the delegation, I don't think we'll have trouble getting 10%. Not to mention so many hatchers have so many tokens. I believe no one has more than 10% of the token supply, so this guarantees at least 2 people to pass a vote. And the vote duration is 5 days. So but only if it's like a really strong consensus. Because it'll add 2 days if there's a flip in the results in the last 3 days. But I don't have much time, so I want to go through conviction voting. I chose these really nice even parameters. Well, they're relatively odd numbers, but still, what this allows is for no proposals to pass in 8 hours. But if we coordinate well, you can pass a proposal in a day. But most proposals will take at least 3 days to pass, which I think is fair. It should take a weekend to pass. But a proposal, like the difference between 3 months and 1 month is almost nothing. But most proposals can pass within 2 weeks. Okay, start. So most proposals can pass in 2 weeks. It takes about in these settings that I put down here. It takes about, you can say this is 5% of the total supply of the total voters. So like most, you could pass a 24 something asking for $24,000 with 10% of the voting supply, which I think is pretty good. Okay, so questions. Oh yeah, and thanks.
Yeah. If I can just jump in real quick, I really like this. It's a really cool proposal, and I think I like the way you're trying to strike the balance on allowing for newcomers to sort of challenge and take over governance stakes. I think that's really aligned with Ostrom's principles. But I was just trying to think about how you want to protect against the attack vector that if you allow for buy-in for governance from non-trusted seed members, but then you have a high voting threshold that you could effectively, with a small percentage of people, create vetoes, where no proposals could pass with a few members if they were able to buy into a certain amount. So just thinking about how you'd mitigate that risk.
So this is only for DAO voting proposals, so it's not spending proposals, but it would be challenges to the smart contracts, changing the on-chain governance system. And the main thing is that honestly, there's it would take a lot of money to buy tokens enough to compete with the trusted seed. So the people in the trusted seed have about 2 million tokens. The hatchers have about 2 million tokens, and this chart kind of shows like we start with about 400,000 in the reserve, and so there'd have to be almost double that to get 20,000 more tokens, and even to get half as many tokens as the hatchers have right now, it would take about $3 million more in the reserve. So it would be, the hatchers still have full control of this, but if there is a sect of people that want to block smart contract upgrades in any way, or also changing the entry and exit tributes and those sorts of things, I think it's good to hear them out and work with them and coordinate with them. So I think it's okay to have a 15% of the active voting tokens be able to stop a vote.
Cool, thanks.
I know this might be explained somewhere, but can you just help me understand maybe the following? Maybe what's the reason that we're putting the opening price at $1? And I'm assuming the opening price is kind of the period that hatchers could sell back if they wanted to do so. So it makes sense for them to have the same exit price. Is that also the entry price? To me, it would make sense to have the same entry price. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, totally. So the DAO is holding. So the way it's set up right now is that we have $1.5 million in our hatch DAO, but 250K is being set aside for an initial buy. And so the DAO itself will buy tokens into the bonding curve and make the first purchase, right?
And kind of just see the initial liquidity in the curve. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And you're on that multisig. So in the a lot of those tokens will go there, and those tokens won't be sold, but they'll be used by some of them might be sold for money in the conviction voting pool. We'll see exactly how the committee wants to collectively govern those tokens. But the actual price that people will be able to buy at, because the DAO is making that first buy, will be $1.38. So, and then no one can sell, so the price will only go up from there. Other than the liquidity and rewards, they could sell a little bit from these tokens, but the price is likely to only go up from 138.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Right, so it also means the DAO is actually paying a slight premium now on on the hatches. Okay, cool. Interesting.
Yeah, and in the next deployments, we'll set it up like we learned that this is a dumb way to do it. We should just mint the tokens for the DAO, and integrate that into this in a different way. But that's for the next class.
It's kind of cool because it almost implies that the DAO and like the bonding curve are like separate systems, and the bonding curve kind of supersedes the DAO in some sense as like just as a market making mechanism, as opposed to the DAO kind of having free ownership within the ecosystem. It's a cool way to approach it. I mean, I guess the goal for the DAO is to just get a base allocation, but like what stops the starting price other than the requirement of the DAO having to buy in? What stops the opening price to be at 5 or 10?
The reason we wouldn't want that is it creates a challenge for the reserve ratio. So then you end up with a very sharp curve that, or you don't end up with enough money in the common pool to actually fund proposals. So that's the other side of it.
Okay, makes sense.
But maybe Chewy's proposal has a $5. We'll see. There were proposals with $5 opening prices. Do you want to take it, Chewy?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm gonna be sharing my screen. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. How much time do I have again?
5 minutes.
Oh, perfect. I have like 3 minutes of breath. So, okay. Okay, first of all, our opening price. Well, my proposal is called Montaña Rusa, which means like roller coaster in Spanish. It takes the volatility approach from TEC Casino. I love the idea of giving the market what they want. So you'll notice this in the reserve ratio that I'm suggesting. And I also like some of the communist ideas from Bolshevik's Gambit. So I pretty much like made a fusion of these two, but it ended up looking a little bit like your proposal, Griff, and also a little bit like Juanca's. So I feel that it's just a weird experiment. Let's see how Montaña Rusa does. So we start with an opening price of 105, which is like a little bit of middle ground between those two proposals. I really like the idea of a long vesting period, like 2 years, but I like the approach of letting catchers also start selling relatively soon. So I don't feel that this would be an issue. This could probably be brought down a little bit, but this is the average from both proposals. So the idea is for us to be able to sell after half a year. On the second module, okay, this gets a little bit dangerous, but yeah, I start with a relatively low reserve ratio, and entry and exit tributes of 8 and 2%. Even though they are high, I feel that the low reserve ratio gives participants the opportunity of being able to overcome these tributes with no problems. Uh, so so yeah, we would be starting with a little bit more than $1 million in the common pool, and a reserve ratio of 11%. Um, for DAO voting, these the two proposals that I'm putting together are agreeing on the Magic 8, which is taken, I think, from our Hatch proposal right now. And I also, since like the middle ground for these parameters was like half a day, I feel that it would be interesting to approach some of these parameters with a half extra day because of time zone changes. So it's not strictly like, you know, like this is where the day starts and this is where the day ends, but it can give a little bit more of room for people in different time zones to get to participate a little bit more than what is supposed to be the limit for this. So again, no proposals take longer than 10 days for being executed. And I really liked how this ended up. It's a little bit more risky than Rift's parameters. At the same time, like no proposal can pass during 8 hours. Maybe a day could be tough, but 3 days starts looking a little bit more possible when coordinated.
1 minute.
So, okay. And what's the thing here? Like, there are some risks, especially if you start looking at 1 month or 3 months. But I don't know why nobody else like mentions this. We have Celeste. It's like having an extra superpower. So maybe we could be able to afford some weak parameters that would allow the community to move faster when necessary. And at the same time, if there is some kind of malicious acts, we always have Celeste. So I hope that everyone here is starting to accumulate as much honey as possible. And yeah, that's it. I'm still working on the rationale for this to be posted. I couldn't have it on time, but yeah, this is the Russian mountain. I hope everybody likes it.
Thank you, Chewy. That was a great proposal. Let's give Chewy a round of applause. And right on time. So, yeah, thank you. So, let's see. I don't know how to use these timers. Zep is so much better at it. Questions? Any thoughts on the roller coaster? Sorry, how do you say it again? What's the name of the proposal?
It's like the Russian mountain, like montaña rusa.
Well, okay, so I'll bring up one thing that I've been bringing up to a lot of these lower reserve ratios is how much voting weight the trusted seed will have for so long. The hatchers, that it's like hard to buy with such a low reserve ratio. It'll be hard to buy enough governance to compete with the hatchers. And what do you think about that?
I agree with maybe setting this so that we can benefit the most. This is definitely something that won't be able to stay for much longer, but I think that the approach that the token freeze makes tries to solve this a little bit. Maybe if we brought it like to have this, it could be more interesting for other people to participate. And at the same time, like I feel that like these parameters would be good for probably the first 6 months at the most. Like I like how other proposals are starting to suggest that, okay, this is good for the launch, but eventually we'll need to change this. So I feel that a low token freeze, like 13 to 26 weeks, is going to be able to add like a spice to the reserve when the time is right. So yeah, I'm pretty much solving it with no more than 6 months of token freeze.
I like all of these. Of course. I think, Chewy, yours has the lowest entry and exit tributes. And I know that Griff had a sort of step plan to change the entry exit tribute on a monthly basis, which to me just feels like maybe an extra step to manage. You know, like we'd have to agree on the way that we would do that, or somebody would be responsible for proposing to the DAO every month to change those parameters. So I like the idea of maybe not having that built into the plan and rather having something that we would want to keep for a longer period of time. But these are the Montagne Russo is so, it feels low, 10% actually, 8 and 2. And I wonder if you want to share your thinking of why you've selected 8 and 2 and not something more around the 20-25% total.
When thinking about giving the market what they want, I feel that that's something that I personally don't like about the TEC Casino, that tributes are super low, and I get the point of it, but I feel that maybe it could afford like bringing it up a little bit more. But anything over 10%, I feel that is just not gonna be as attractive for the market. And having a low reserve ratio can generate enough volatility so that this 10% tribute can be absorbed. What I would maybe develop more in the rationale of the proposal is that I feel that these tributes could be a little bit more even with time, so that it's not tough for people to start entering. But if people want to get out, like they need to start thinking a little bit more about it. But at the beginning, I feel that an easy exit is a good approach for what people that speculate with this are going to be interested in.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer. I just wonder if speculators are going to be interested in any token with a tribute when there's so many that don't have them at all. So I wonder if, I guess I'm wondering myself who would be interested in this and how to best appeal to the people that want to actually advance token engineering.
I would just say that there won't be tributes on HoneySwap. So there'll be a market price and there'll be the bonding curve price. Paul, what were you going to say?
I really appreciate just bringing up this perspective. I don't know if we've done, let's say, market research with potential buyers and speculators. I mean, almost defining different user groups. I think there'll be user groups that will say, I really want to advance the token engineering commons. And then there'll be people, and I don't really care, take my money. And then I think there'll be people that say, I want to support the token engineering commons, but can I make money doing this? If so, take my money and take lots of it. And lastly, I think there'll be people that are like, can I just make money with this? And ideally, you want to balance out those three user groups. So I think you guys may have done this already, but I think it would actually be interesting presenting almost simplified versions of this to those user groups, specifically the more speculative ones, and kind of just hearing their reaction. And I tend to agree a little bit just also with the sentiment that was just presented around having shorter token freezes and token thaws. I think something that can be a hindrance to the growth of a token economy is trying to have too much of a central banking role. And it's something that I've personally seen in other projects that have implemented kind of very monolithic bonding curve designs, that it can actually at some point really hinder the growth of a token economy because you're tying it for quite long periods of times to a bonding curve design. This also really depends what the overarching market environment is like. So I think in a bear market, I think having this monolithic design is nice because it kind of protects the token economy. In a bull market, it really, really hinders growth, and it can also frustrate people because at some point people might think, hey, we could be so much further already if we had locked ourselves into this like highly protective design. So I think that's a risk exercise to kind of to kind of run away. Personally, I'm more in favor of opening up the economy at its earliest stages, as opposed to having very long freezing periods, and then also being at the whim of the market a little bit, because that can have positive effects as well, because then people can kind of vote with their feet, in the most basic sense.
Just to jive off that, in my proposal in the comments, I have a little thing that's like, once we hit a $40 million market cap and have enough liquidity in the market, we should just turn off the bonding curve, and let the market price float, and maybe even take some of the money that's out of the reserve and use that for advancing token engineering. Maybe we'll have to see and do a lot of testing to see if that makes sense. But I do think that no matter what proposal gets through, the bonding curve should be something that we start with, but we don't end with.
Yeah. Just a funny thought here. You could turn off the bonding curve, take out the collateral, and then start a token repurchase program with the collateral.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what DXDAO kind of did. But it's now we have. Thank you, Chewy. Sorry, we tangented in. Thank you, Chewy. That was a great proposal. And Nate, you have 5 minutes if you're ready.
Yeah, so I'm not sure who actually did this proposal, but if anything, it's going to be a good shill for conversations. So this one's called the 180 degrees governance. So it's got a pretty radical approach to it. So it's got an opening price of 10 RAPXDAI, token freeze of 24 weeks, 150 weeks token thaws, long, but it makes sense with the strategy of having such a high opening price. If we look at the augmented bonding curve, we have $822,000 in the common pool at launch, which is really nice, and a really low reserve ratio. So this is catering to that crowd of speculators, and with a low entry and exit tribute, it allows a really accessible system for arbitrage opportunities. With that volatility, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to try to capitalize on this type of arbitrage through the bonding curve and getting some of that tribute every single time. And because of that high volatility, I feel like the frequency of purchases and sells on the bonding curve is going to be a lot more frequent than if you were to have it a high entry and high exit tribute. Most of the trading would be on secondary exchanges or secondary markets. And to your comment before about the risks of governance, the difference between something that's at $1 and 11% reserve ratio, challenging the governance, versus something that's at a reserve ratio of 2%, but at 10 RAPXDAI, it's going to cost a lot more money to compete with that governance. So I think this makes sense if you're going to have a low reserve ratio, that you have a very high opening price. The TAL voting is really interesting. I think it's kind of a little bit lower for the support required and a lot higher minimum quorum. I actually like the high minimum quorum, especially with TAL voting. If we're going to be changing the infrastructure at all within the DAO, it should be a community process that you must have community engagement on a large scale. Vote duration is 5 days. It's a little short, but that means we need to be very organized. The delegated period of 3. It's not too bad. I would prefer a quiet ending period and the extension to be a little bit longer, and the execution delay of one day. The conviction voting takes the kind of the standard orogeny approach, which I really love. Moderate to low spending limit, really small minimum conviction, and really high conviction growth, which encourages people to submit more frequent proposals of smaller increments. And the conviction that you have to have in there must be staked for a little bit longer. And I think that encourages people to move their tokens around a little bit more, as we get more and more proposals, and they don't lose that conviction if they do move it from one proposal to another very quickly. So that is the governance, 180 degrees governance. So I just wanted to present that with you.
Wow, that was a rapid speed too. Great presentation. And it's for Nate. On the conviction voting, can you scroll through and see what it looks like in 1 day and 3 days and that sort of thing? So basically, you can't pass anything in 1 day. Pretty hard to pass things in 3 days. And what about 7 days? Okay, so 7 days, it's like you have to have 20% of the at least 20% of the total supply of voting tokens behind a proposal for 7 days to pass anything. I mean, maybe that's a little hard. What do you think? Like, it's like very slow governance.
It is a lot. I do think that when it comes to proposals, I think that having the community members stake into these proposals and actively participating in the conviction voting process is something that is encouraged with this type of system, because in order to pass and in order to achieve the initiatives of the commons, we must stake and show our support. It can't be fleeting. It can't be, I'm going to put my tokens here for this day and sell it the next. It's got to be, I'm going to put it here because until this passes, and making sure that I have conviction behind the proposals that are being sent to the commons. I just think it's a way to keep people engaged and making sure that they do it.
Well, very much a casino proposal. Does anyone else Does anyone else have a question?
Yeah, I have a question, and it's a kind of a continuation of what Paul was talking about. I mean, it's about probably my lack of understanding. What I'd like to ask is, the value of the token basically will have to be ultimately emanate from the performance of the proposals, the initiatives. I mean, how does the market evaluate what's happening with with respect to the proposals? From where does the market get that information? Is it purely speculative?
I don't know if it's purely speculative. I think majority of activity that's going to happen on the bonding curve is going to be speculative in the first half of our economy until we start actually funding proposals that are making a difference in the community and industry. Once that happens, I think people will have a different approach towards it. But I'm not sure about consumer behavior. So it depends on how our impact is.
Yeah, actually, my question was not specific to your proposal, Nate. It was basically to the whole concept itself.
I'm not sure. Does anybody else have a?
I mean, in the end, all tokens are based off of people's prediction of future value. They'll buy the token on the market if they think the price will go up later.
My question is basically in traditional markets, it is possible for us to make some sort of a prediction of the future value flows and cash flows and all that. But in this particular case, how does that happen?
Well, you could run simulations and say like how many people are basically going to gamble on the TC, because with a reserve ratio of 2%, you can look at some of these buys and sells. A buy is going to change the price so much. The price is going to go wild. And
that's different.
But the flows come from the volatility. So the entry and exit tributes end up creating monetary flows into the common pool. And so the more volatile the token price is, the more arbitrage opportunities there is between the tributes and the market price. So you're kind of creating this income from volatility.
The basic question which I am asking is that how does the market, on what basis does the market arrive at a price apart from the bonding curve? The bonding curve is different. The thing, for for an arbitrage to take place, that there must be an independent price generation of the market. On what basis does the market arrive at a price?
I mean, I think there's a combination of demand, supply and demand, and I think the market will look at, first off, are we in a bull market in general, right? And that's the larger ecosystem kind of determines a lot there, and then and it's just like any other crypto token, right? But is this DAO going to create a lot of value? Is it something that people would use as an impact investment? Is it something that people will have fun with to buy the token and have access to things? It's like, what will this token get me? And will this token have a higher future value? Is going to unfortunately be, just like every other cryptocurrency, in my opinion, the primary like driving force.
Yeah, the problem is that if you take any other token, there are ways by which there are network effects and so many other ways by which one can actually kind of indirectly estimate what's happening to the let's call it the fundamentals of the token. But here, what's happening is that
Kojak, because we're taking all the time to debate this proposal on the larger system, and maybe we want to give. Is there a question about this proposal specifically? I mean, $10 opening price. No one wants to question that.
Don't question it. Don't question it. Don't question it.
I was just going to jump in because on that exact point. So the first buyer on the bonding curve will be the TEC of the funds that were set aside to jump in. So there, we're actually going to get 10 times less tokens than if we had a lower price of 1, for example. So if the price goes down, and we're going to use that in the commons pool to basically fund the common activities, how do you imagine that being, like, that risk being mitigated, or those funds being replenished so that the actual long-term value will be funded and then hopefully put into the actual the commons long-term? Thank you.
I think that we may buy less tokens, but that value is going to be a lot higher, and so that means less distribution of TEC tokens when it comes to reward systems. And with a low exit tribute, people are going to be comfortable with taking their rewards for their contributions to the commons without a huge tax that I've seen with a lot of proposals. And so I think this is kind of a fair system, and it's not too detrimental in the long term. We can adjust the tributes maybe, but I think it's not too terribly bad.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's just do a quick recap of all the different proposals. So this, Nate, yours was 180 degrees governance.
Yep.
Issue number 41.
Yep.
And so you can go to Token Log and vote for this one if you'd like. Chewy, what was is yours proposed? Does it have an issue number?
No, I'm working on that as we speak.
Same with mine. I'll be honest. I've been trying to propose it for the last all this day, and I couldn't get to it before the call. But it will be proposed by the end of the day, and it will be called. It'll have this delicious meme, and will be called something. $1 million. It'll be like a $1 Goldilocks' $1 bet for $1 million advancement of token engineering. And then Wonka, what was yours called?
Possum's $1 million baby, and is number 84.
84. Thank you. And if any of you we're about to enter the voting time, so feel free to go in Token Log and put a couple of votes behind proposals that you like, and then come back for more debates to see the other options. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you. If you want, the next call is the Stewards call, so a lot of us will hop over to the Stewards channel.
This was great. Thanks, everyone.
This was great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for participating, SDG.